So here's the scenario, right? I had a shop when I lived in Oklahoma that used to deal with my car. That shop was awesome. Like they were black owned, they were doing their thing, you know what I mean? Like, and they worked on um what is it called? European cars, right? Porsches, BMWs, Bentleys, like they worked on exotics too. And they were, I'm not going to say the only people there that did that, but they were really good, really known in that area to really do good work for those, uh, German cars, if you will, right? So that's where my car used to go. They have done certain things to my car to ensure that certain problems don't happen. Well, I had some work that I needed to do now that I've moved to North Carolina. I've had some work that needed to be done. I took said car over to this place here. I'm not going to mention no names. I'm not going to, put them on blast. I'm just going to say I brought it here to North Carolina, took it to that shop to get some work done on it. And I kind of feel away. Okay. I kind of feel away because the level of work that this other shop did out in Oklahoma was so awesome because they took pictures, they showed you what was going on with the car, if they had if there was a problem or whatever, they showed you what the current state of the car was when they saw it. So when you say, okay, this is the work that needs to be done or whatever, like they have it on record. Like they've shown you what happened when it came in, right? They took pictures of what happened of what it looked like when it came in. And so there's nothing you can't deny that this work needs to be done. You see it, right? If it's messed up, they showed you on video. They took it off on video so you could see it, and then boom, boom, boom. Wonderful. Excellent. It created trust, right? That's stuff that we talk about in my lives. It created trust with that company, which is awesome. So now, you know, going to this new shop, I take it for one issue, and because I know my car, right? I've dealt with three, counted, one, two, three of the same type of car. Okay. Now, when I say same type of car, I'm talking about the same model years. Okay. So if okay, I'll put it out there. If I have a BMW 325, that's basically the same as a BMW 328, right? The BMW 328 is basically a smaller version of the BMW 528. Okay. All of the parts are almost the same, right? There's certain variations, but the type of engine it is, the way that everything is set up, the locations of everything in the car, the way that it's programmed, like almost everything is the same. There's no real nuance between those other than maybe this part is this model versus this model, right? Like one might be bigger or one might be a little bit longer or stuff like that. But for the most part, all the parts are the same. Okay. So if I take it to you, and because I know cars, and because I've also put a lot of hand time, right, a lot of wrench time, elbow grease into these cars myself. So I was taking it to that shop in Oklahoma, but yet I was still fixing it too. Because I've been working on cars since I was 16, right? No, I was 15. So I know my way around cars. I'm a very handy person. You know what I'm saying? Very good with my hands. And I took the car there and I told him what the problem was because I had already did my due diligence. I've already researched, and when I say researched, I'm talking about inspected, right? Put my hands in the car and said, okay, this ain't the problem. Let me move to this. Okay, this ain't the problem. Let me move to that, right? And I'm working my way through it. I'm not throwing money at it and just buying parts. That's not how I get down. I'm going to test things. I'm going to use the protocols that it needs to figure out if this part is bad or that part is bad, whatever, whatever, whatever. And so I realized what part was needed. What was needed? Fuel pump, right? I knew the car needed a fuel pump. I took the car there and I explained to them, here's the problem. I know it is. They said, well, hey, we're going to diagnose it anyway because that's included. We have to do that when you bring a car in so we can understand the state of the car and whatever. I said, okay. I said, I know you're going to have to do that, but it's the fuel pump, so I'm needing a new fuel pump. They say, well, you know what? We this is after they had it for it. Well, after the car got there, because I had to get it towed. Probably they had about an hour, maybe 2 hours at best from the time that I got a call, and ended up getting this call, and I'm like, what? They say, yeah, we already figured it out. It's ready to go. Boom, boom, boom. Right? They basically chalked up their hands like, yo, we got it solved. It's ready. It's good. And so I said, well, what was the problem? They said the battery. These cars, the voltage has to be consistent or blah, 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 or things just ain't gonna work right. And so we swapped the battery, boom, boom, car fired up, you're good to go. I said, oh, okay. He said, but we did see that you need this other thing taken care of, blah, blah, blah. I said, I know that needs to be taken care of, and I was gonna get it done. But now, since you say I only needed a battery, then okay, cool. Okay, let me give you a caveat. Here's a caveat to this. The caveat is that this shop here deals with the same thing. They deal with German cars. They in the parking lot. All I saw was the same type of model cars that I drive, right? Plus Porsches, right? Plus Mercedes. Like, so all those cars were sitting in the parking lot as either people were coming to pick them up or they had just got there. So what I'm saying here is that when I pull in the parking lot, this looked familiar to me, right? This looked like the other place that I was dealing with in Oklahoma. Okay. And I'm not using names because I don't want to, you know, put people out there like that. Um, I may say the name of the shop in Oklahoma because I want to give them their props, right? I want to give them their props. They are a wonderful shop. So if you're in Oklahoma, matter of fact, I'm gonna say it. If you're in Oklahoma, you need to go to Zag Auto Works. Zag Auto Works. Okay. I wish I could tell you the street it's on. I think if I'm not mistaken, that is 20 no 31st. I think it's on 31st. Okay. I think it's on 31st and Yale. Yes, 31st and Yale. So if you have a German car, go to Zag Auto Works. Okay. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, Zag Auto Works. I'm telling you right now. And matter of fact, you can tell them Rich sent you because they are wonderful. They are an excellent shop. Know that. And like I told you, black owned, black operated. They were wonderful. They do the thing. Okay. And this ain't just because it's me. They're that good. They got techs in there that used to work at those dealerships when those cars first dropped. And so they know and keep up with all those cars. If you bring a car there to get your work done, it will be done right the first time for the thing that they are gonna fix. Okay. Now, I'm saying that to say that boom, here, North Carolina, this shop posed as if it was on that same type of level. Okay. If you look at the reviews online, it says that they're good. It says that they know what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So my thought process was that, okay, they must be good, at least equivalent, right? So again, they tell me it was the battery, right? Get back to it. They said it was the battery. Wonderful. Change that out. They said this other part needed to be fixed. I said I knew it needed to be fixed. I was just going to do it after I solved this problem, right? The the fuel pump problem. Now that I saw, you've told me that it's not the fuel pump. You know what? Go ahead and take care of that. That way, I can knock out the other problem that I was gonna have to do anyway. Knock that out, right? And uh knock out, and we've already solved the other problem that I had with the fuel pump. It wasn't a problem with the fuel pump, so we're good. Even though I thought it was the fuel pump. They say, all right, cool, no problem. We'll get it back to you 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock tomorrow, right? And uh um yeah, we'll get it back to you 10 o'clock tomorrow, and then you can come on and pick it up. They said we'll give you a call. I said, all right, wonderful. Didn't think nothing about it. I'm like, okay, they got good reviews. They're acting good. They seem knowledgeable, right? Based on what they were saying. Okay, cool. There was no red flags at this point. So next day rolls around, and lunchtime rolls around. It's now past 10 o'clock, right? Lunchtime rolls around. So I say, you know what? Let me give them a call. Why am I going to give them a call? Because I got somewhere to go, right? So lunchtime rolls around, and um, then I call them. So now they didn't call me. I called them. They answer the phone and they say, oh, I was going to call you. Glad you called. Just got back from lunch. Just got back from lunch is what he says. And boom, I wanted to call you about the car. So here's what I found. This is what they say. This is what they say. This is that BS that they said. Okay. Foreshadowing the BS to come. He says, found your car. I mean, we went to fix the thing that you told us to fix now. And what we found is that the cap that covers your oil filter for the oil filter housing, the cap for it, there's a little piece in the inside, right? There's a little piece in the inside that is known to break. If it breaks, it goes to your engine, boom, 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 engine, no good, right? I said, oh, that's interesting, right? I said, yeah, I know about that piece. I know about that part. That's why on my car, I changed that plastic filter, what, cap, whatever you want to call it. I call it a cap, I guess. I changed it for a metal one. A metal one. So now the plastic piece in the inside that normally breaks is all metal. It's metal. It has a metal piece down the middle. So there is no breakable piece in the inside. He says, yeah, well, I mean, it's sitting right here. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's broken. He said, so I went on and, I kind of fit it in. But, we replaced it with a plastic one. I said, a plastic one? I said, that's not better than the metal one. I said, the metal one is there to fix the problem of that piece getting broke. That's why I have a metal one. He said, well, it's broke. I said, so you're telling me right now that metal cap, that piece in there is broke? He said, yes. I said, okay. So then save that piece, put it with my stuff, because when I come, I need to see that, because I need to take it and get my warranty for it, because it has a lifetime warranty, because it's not supposed to break at all. And I told them if it broke, then that means it had to be force broken. Somebody had to choose purposefully to try to break it. He said, and your oil filter is crushed in the inside. Interesting. Interesting. So I said, show me. He said, yep, when you come in, I'll go ahead and, I'll show you. But But I went on and took care of it, so you're good. It's not really gonna, cost you anymore. That's interesting, right? Yeah, I mean, are we on the same page here, chat? Because that's interesting, and you can put it in the chat. Tell me how you feel. Tell me how you feel. Tell me how you feel about this so far. Because there's more. There is more. So then what happens? I say he said this is what he said next. He said, you know what? Let me talk to my tech, right? Let me talk to my tech and get some more details, figure out what's going on or whatever, and I'll give you a call back. I said, all right, do that. Right? I said, all right, do that. He then calls me back at probably 3 o'clock and says, hey Rich, look, I just want to touch base with you because uh now your car's not starting. I said, what do you mean it's not starting? I said, you told me it was starting. He said, yeah, after lunch, my tech was moving the car, moved it back in, and now it's not starting. I said, okay, so what's wrong? He said, well, it could be two things. It could either be, he said, at this point, we're at the point that because we've tested the fuel flow, right? We tested the flow, and we found out that the fuel pressure is a little bit on the low side. I said, okay, so do you remember when I brought it in and I told you that the problem is the fuel pump? He said, yeah, but the car didn't have any codes and it didn't show that it was the fuel pump, and but you know, what I also know is that the computer won't tell you if the fuel pump is bad. Did anybody catch that? Did y'all catch that? Because if you're going to say that the car didn't have any codes saying that the fuel pump was bad, and then you come right behind that, right? You skirt the block and come behind that and say it wouldn't show codes for that anyway, then you have just nullified your own point that the car came in and it didn't have any codes. If you replace the battery, that too can end up wiping codes. So now you're telling me that my fuel pump is bad. He said, well, no, I'm saying that it could be the fuel pump because there's low pressure, but the low pressure could be coming because the hose that's inside the fuel tank, right? Because the fuel pump sits in the fuel tank, and then there's a hose that comes off that runs over to the filter strainer, going across to the other side, to the driver's side of the car, and that line could have a hole in it, could be coming off, could be not letting it produce the right amount of vacuum or suction, right? Pause, to get to the front of the car, to have the pressure that it's supposed to have. I say, okay, all right, cool. So go ahead and figure it out and then call me back and let me know. He says, yeah. So what we're gonna do is, because we have a whole diagnostic, plan that we have to go through, and this is the next step on the diagnostic plan or whatever. And I said, no. You said that you were gonna have to figure it out, and you'll call me back. Call me back, right? Because at this point, I'm pissed. I want to know what's going on with my car. I want to know why you didn't just fix what I told you to fix from the gate, right? So he calls me back, right? Now he calls me probably sometime around 4, okay? Because that was late, around 3. He calls me back around 4, and he says, okay, we figured it out. It's the fuel pump. The fuel pump is bad. I says, so here's the problem I have with this. This is what I told him. I said, this is the problem I have with this. The problem that I have with this is that I told you when I brought the car in that it was the fuel pump, right? You then commenced to try to charge me for diagnostics. Cool, right? Because you have to verify that that is the problem. However, you told me immediately that it was the battery. Because as soon as you changed it, car started up. So you told me that I didn't need one. You didn't actually test it. He said, yeah, because there was no codes and first we have to solve the power issue, blah 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 blah. I said, I understand that. That is correct. That's what you have to do. But once you call me and tell me that it's ready, it's finished, there's no problem, then my thought process is that you've tested everything already. You've tested the problem that I said I'm having with my car. He says, well, I mean, I couldn't test it until the voltage was right. I said, but we fixed it. You told me the battery, you put a new battery in it, and now you're telling me that the fuel pump, the thing I brought it in for, that you obviously didn't test, is bad. I made a decision, right? Based on your advice, I made a decision based on your advice, and I ended up getting the other things fixed. And now you're gonna tell me that the price for this is almost $100 more than the price for that, and I've already had that done. Now I got to pay for that and this, right? So now I'm paying twice, and I wasn't going to get the other thing fixed yet. Only thing I was going to get fixed was the fuel pump because I knew that was the problem. They tell me, I mean, I feel you. I'm sorry about that. I mean, I don't know what to do. Like, because we didn't know. Nobody would have known. I said, I knew. I told you. I told you that that was the problem. So at this point, he stops and says, so do you want me to order the fuel pump? What? How is the car going to get fixed? That's what I asked him. And again, I'm talking to you guys a little bit more animated than I was on the call. But that is the answer, the question. The question is, how is the car going to get fixed if you don't order the fuel pump? If the pump is bad? I said, let's stop this question. Because I said that. I said, how is the car going to get fixed if you don't order the fuel pump? I said, as a matter of fact, let me tell you this, right? Because we're doing all this talking about this other stuff. Let me tell you this. I said, first of all, the economy is not what it used to be. My companies are the type of companies that people are starting to use AI for, right? So now I have to pivot my companies. I have to change my companies over so I can keep it pushing, right? I said, and so if I come to you and I tell you what the problem is, and I tell you I have a budget that I'm staying within, and I tell you what that budget is, and then you commence to not, don't even care nothing about it. Don't care nothing about my budget. Don't care about what I told you was wrong. You just want to do whatever you want to my car. To me, this is not a productive relationship. This is not a healthy relationship because you totally disregarded what I said. You didn't even take it with you gave it no credibility. Here's what I need you to know. I have three, count them, 1, 2, 3 of the same type model year of car. I know all about them. This is something that I didn't tell him at the time when I told y'all earlier in this conversation. I didn't tell him that, but I told him at this point. I said, so if I tell you that something's wrong with this car, more than likely I've already checked. I've already done the due diligence. I know exactly what the problem is. And there's times that I could be wrong. But majority of the time, I know I'm not. I've had these cars for over 5 years. I know a lot about these cars because I'm not just driving them and running them in the ground. No, I'm getting in there and I'm putting my hands in there. I know my cars, right? I know what they do. I know when if something happens, I got my code scanner, all that kind of stuff that I can look at everything that's happening with the car. I have a really upgraded scanner. I have the one like that's basically the same thing as BMW uses. So I have the ability to see everything that's happening with my car the same way you can see it. So if I diagnose a problem and I'm telling you what the problem is, then what's the question? And if you have to diagnose it yourself, cool. I understand that you can't necessarily just take my word for it. But if I told you where the problem lies, then that should be the direction you're trying to see. You should be looking in that direction. So at this point, I feel like this is not a productive relationship. However, I need my car. He said, well, I can have your car finished by tomorrow. No, what he said was, let me tell you first, Rich, because his voice changed and he got really like subdued. You know, I understand and I can appreciate that. What I'll do because of all this, I can knock some money off and all that kind of stuff. I can try to, get rid of the diagnostic fee. Let me just go ahead and get rid of that and boom, boom, boom and drop it down. Now, don't get me wrong. This is still, no matter how you run it, it's still almost double what I planned on paying and what it was going to cost me just to do it the first time. If you did what I said, even if adding a battery to it, and batteries are not cheap right now. I don't understand. Like they don't have computer processors in them. You know what I'm saying? Why is a battery so daggone expensive? Anyway, it's probably because of the gas prices, right? For them to ship it to get it from the place that it's built to the consumer, you're gonna charge that much difference? Come on. Anyway, point is that now at this point, I basically have to eat the fact of doing two repairs when I only came, well, three repairs, and I only came for one. One that I knew was the problem. I knew I needed a battery. I knew the battery wasn't great, but the battery still worked. If the car would start, they attributed the car not starting to the battery. But it was deeper than that. I'm saying all that for you guys to understand that sometimes the problem is deeper and you have to look deeper than that surface level, right? That surface level that everybody else is like, oh, well, if it ain't starting, oh, it's got to be the battery. Yeah, it could be the battery, right? But also, it can be more than that. There can be another level that's actually causing the problem, right? And so now they said that my car was supposed to be able to be picked up today. It's lunchtime. They still haven't called me. How long does it take to change a fuel pump? Anybody? Does anybody know? If you know, put it in the chat, put it in the comments, however you want to do it. Do you know how long it takes to change a fuel pump? And I'm not talking about a fuel pump on a regular car. I'm talking about a fuel pump on a BMW, right? It's sitting underneath the back seat. Here's the thing. Now, because of this issue, I have to check behind them to ensure that the work is done. I can't just believe that they did the work that I asked for, that they did the work that I approved. I can't just believe it at this point, right? I can't just blindly say, "Yep, they did it." Right? This is where we get into the whole trust but verify conversation. So if I'm looking, or excuse me, before I even took it, Remember, I told you I tested it. I tested the fuel pump already. So I already knew the fuel pump wasn't doing all that it was supposed to do. So if I pop the back seat up, which I did before I even took it, I know what the fuel pump looks like. I know the current state of that fuel pump. So there's no way that you can, if I pop that back seat up and that pump ain't new, and that O-ring ain't new, and that lock ring ain't new, we then have a problem. We then have a problem because I am going to check. I'm going to pop them seats up. And that's going to have to be what it is, right? That's going to have to be what it is. And don't clean up a pig and try to tell me that it's a turkey. You know what I'm saying? So now that's the kind of BS that I'm dealing with, right? So if you're wondering how come I haven't been dropping videos lately, it's from stuff like that, man. If I'm sitting there and I got, multiple companies that I'm working on, and a lot of it is solo. I'm a solo entrepreneur for the most part, right? And so if I'm doing all of this, building these companies and doing all this stuff, and then I'm still streaming, and then I'm still taking care of my family, there's not millions of hours in a day, right? There's 24. Everybody got the same 24. So I've had to kind of shift, right? Shift things that I had to do because imagine just me even diagnosing the problem in my car to begin with, so I could tell them what I knew the problem to be. That took time. I had to go out there, outside and figure it out. That takes time, right? Albeit I know what I'm doing, it still took some time. And so I've had to kind of, shift time around from this to that, this to that, this to that. So that's why I went live a couple times, right? I went live a couple times, but I didn't really record it to be able to upload it, archive it, things like that. I didn't do all that. So just because it's sheer time, right? Sheer time. So that's the update, right? That's the update. I'm waiting on my car. We'll see what happens. We'll see whether or not it comes, because here's the thing. They have to call me. And when they call me, I mean, really and truly, they could call me now, to be honest. I'm on D&D. So maybe if I take myself off D&D, a call might come through. And then if so, boom. Now I'm gonna have to stop my live, go and get my car, right? Um, Even though I promise you right now, I do not want to spend how much they told me. You know what I'm saying? Because some of that work would have not got done. Because that was not a part of the budget I was willing to spend in this moment. Not saying I don't have it. I'm saying that I wasn't willing to spend it. I'm earmarking money for different things that I got to do, right? And if you know, like I know, if you have a German car, it can get expensive really fast, which is what it just did. And not because I was chasing a problem, right? I knew what the problem was. I was going to spend once, solve the problem, move on. Because a lot of problems with that car, I can fix myself. It might take me about an hour, depending on what it is. Boom, boom, boom. Do what I got to do. Ready to go. Boom, back on the road. That's why I had the car as long as I've had it. Because you cannot own a BMW or Mercedes if you don't know how to work on your own car. Now, Mercedes might not be too easy to work on. BMWs are relatively easy to work on. They're pretty straightforward, depending on how old your BMW is. If you have a new one, a really new one, there may be some things that might not be as easy to work on, especially if you got like the hybrid version or something like that, or some sort of electric version. That might not be as easy to wrench on. But if you have a regular ICE, right, internal combustion engine car, chances are, if you know anything about any vehicles, you can work on it, okay, and get a great result. Car still working, boom, 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 stay on the road, hundreds of thousands of miles. Okay. So at this point, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I'm at the part of understanding that I really need people to listen to people, right? If somebody brings you a problem, listen to them. If you know all about that subject, still listen to them, right? And assume that they may know the problem that they have, or at least they're pointing in a direction that should tell you even more. It should give you a direction, right? Because yes, your diagnostics can do what they do, right? You can take assessment on whatever you think is going on with it, but they gave you a point of reference to tell you, hey, here's where I think the problem lies. So look in that direction and then nix out whether or not what they're saying is true first. First, if someone brought a car to me and said, "Hey, Rich, here's what I need. I need a fuel pump." If somebody came to me and said that, and I was a mechanic and I was gonna fix it, right? They said they need a fuel pump. First thing I would do, very first thing I would do, before anything else really, is I would ask them, "Well, what makes you think that?" Right? They may say, well, I need a fuel pump because, when I'm hitting the gas, it's not giving me enough gas, or the car's not starting, or whatever, whatever. And I say, okay, it's not starting. Okay, cool. If it's not starting, like, what does it sound like? And this is just even over the phone, like, I'm not even have to hear the car yet. They say, well, it's cranking like it wants to start, but I'm hitting the gas and stuff, and it's not really doing anything. And so I say, okay, well, when you first started the car, did you hear it hum? Did you hear the car hum? And they say, I don't think so. I say, okay, all right, cool. Go ahead and bring it in, right? Go ahead and bring it in. I'll check it out. And so if they come, bring the car, the very first thing I'm going to do is try to start it, right? Because that's going to give me a lot of information. If it just clicks, starter, right? If it clicks and has a type sound, you hear the sound effect, like, okay, that might be battery, right? That might be battery, right? If it's going, and it sounds dry, like it's not improving as I'm turning the key, then it ain't getting no fuel, right? So at least I know at the point at the beginning, it's a fuel issue somehow. Now, how do you do that? Like, where do you go from there? Well, we check the fuel pressure. Is there pressure, right? Is there pressure? How am I going to figure that out? I don't have a way to test the pressure of the fuel pump, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to first say, well, let's see if the fuse blown for the fuel pump, right? Is there a fuel control module that's controlling the fuel to get to the front? That's controlling the fuel pump. Where's that at? Does that work? Okay. Go to the fuel pump. Is the fuel pump getting the right amount of voltage that the pump is supposed to get? That'll tell you a whole lot. Okay, it's getting the voltage. Okay, cool. Now let's see if we can initiate that pump. Can we make that pump? If I give it the voltage, can the pump turn on? Right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hardwire a setup to go from the battery to the fuel pump. Boop. Right? However I can get power to it, I'm gonna power it, tap it. Do I hear the pump go and come on? If I hear it pump, okay, well, your pump sounds good. If it don't make no sound, or it makes a sound that doesn't sound like it's moving water, liquid, then you have a problem with the pump. Easy. Boom. Take the pump out, pop a new pump in there, DD. Flip it back together, ring back on it, put the seat back down, close the door, write up the invoice, done deal. Problem solved. Car starts, pump now works. Pump was bad. Send it back, either get a warranty on it or throw it in the trash. One of the two. This ain't rocket science, people. This is car science. But it's also logical. It's a logical thought process if you understand the mechanics of a car, right? If you understand the pieces that make each part of the car work, right? Each what is it called? System. Each system in the car, right? Because the car is made up of a bunch of different systems, kind of like your body, right? Your body is made up of multiple systems, right? You have the system that allows you to see, you have a system that allows you to hear, you have a system that allows you to move, you have a system that allows you to digest, right? You have a system that allows you to breathe. You have a system that allows you to grow nails, to have smooth skin. All of these are systems, and they're all connected, right? You have a system that pumps blood throughout your body. All of these are systems. This is the way that you diagnose anything, right? You figure out, well, what pieces, well, what are your symptoms first, right? Once we know what the symptoms are, then that leads us into a direction. Because if I have a symptom that, hey, right now I'm sitting here and I can't see, why am I going to go look at your toes? Why am I going to go to a podometrist? I can't see, right? We trace back. If you can't see, then why? That's like somebody say they can't see. They came into you, they say they can't see. You go and start messing with their feet, trying to figure out, well, if I push the pressure point on the foot, then your eye should open up. But you're not looking at the eye, and it's swollen because somebody punched them in the face. That's why they can't see. Their eyes closed. You didn't even look. You went straight to their feet. You must like feet. You must have a foot fetish. Ah, shoot. All I'm saying is that if a person comes in telling you that something is happening and they telling you what's wrong, my eye, I can't see. Why would you look at anything else but their eye first? Diagnose the eye. Appreciate y'all patience. If I look at the eye and there's an obstruction, occlusion, or something happening with your eye, then now we can figure out, well, what caused the occlusion, right? Is there a way that we can solve that and get your vision back, right? I'm not going to look at any other system because no other system is going to make you have an occlusion, a swollen eye, right? At least not at first. Now, could it be that you ate something that you're having an allergic response to that's causing your eye to do this? Yes, it can. Right? Because if you have an allergic reaction, it could do all kinds of things. It could swell up things. It can cause mucus. It can make you sneeze and cough and you can be sweating on your body and all that. Like if you come in with night sweats and stuff, like it could be food. Could be. But first off, we might need to look at, well, when you sleep, are you sleeping under 4 pounds of blankets? You know what I'm saying? If you are, that might be why you have night sweats. Like, I don't know. I guess, and I guess this is the reason why when I make these videos, right, when I'm talking on live, I'm talking about these subjects logically because life is not really rocket science. Like, it's not physics. Like, well, it is physics, but it's not like it's not hard. It's systems, right? The way you think is a system. It's a system that's been programmed over the amount of time that you've been alive. Right? It's a blank system when you're born. And from the time that you are born, you're starting to be programmed. From the very moment you come out. Let me prove that. Here's how I prove that. When you come out, what do? They hold you up and smack your butt. Why? To clear out your lungs, right? That's what they'll tell you, to clear out your lungs, right? Also, you'll start to cry, right? So now you cleared out your tear ducts. Like that one move makes you start to, right, take in air, like, and get used to breathing, right? So it's training your body to react, right? To expel and to breathe in and to realize that now you have air that you're breathing, you have oxygen to breathe. And from that moment to the time that you take your last breath, you will constantly be breathing as a result of that first one. Right? It's a system. It's been trained to do it. This is why everything else that we do, we build things in systems. If it's going to work and work consistently, it's because you built a system around that thing. You built a system around what you wanted the outcome to be. This is what we have to do. And this ties immediately back to my car issue. Right? Why does it tie back to my car issue? Because the system that should have been in place at an auto repair shop should be repeatable. That's what a system is. A repeatable system. So if somebody comes in and says they have a problem with their fuel pump, they think they need a fuel pump, the system should say, they've diagnosed the problem, but we're going to diagnose it again. Okay? But they said it was the fuel pump. So let me go down the line of everything that leads up to that fuel pump, get to the fuel pump. And then by then, when I get to the problem that they said they have, if all of that line checks out, sir, ma'am, you do not need a fuel pump. If anything in that line doesn't check out, that doesn't mean stop at the thing that doesn't check out. Right? Because that's half doing it. Right? Back in the day, we called it half-assing it. I don't know if we can say that, but we're going to say it. So that's what we used to call it, right? Because you get to, let's say, the fuse, right? You get to the fuse for the fuel pump in that line that I told y'all a second ago. You get to the fuse and the fuse is blown. Oh, well, you just needed a new fuse for the fuse pump. You put the fuse in and say, it's done. But we didn't dig deeper. Because the deeper thing is, what caused the fuse to blow in the first place? Because we need to solve that. Right? It's not just swap the fuse and be good. Something caused that fuse to blow. Let's go down the line. What's next? The fuel pump. Let's go to the fuel pump now. Because if the fuel pump is shorting out, causing the fuse to blow, then now we have possible reasons for the car to explode, right? For the gas to ignite. If there's sparks going on in the fuel tank, this is the reason why I'm saying that you can't just stop on the line of the diagnosis. You have to keep going, keep asking the questions. Well, if this happened, then what caused that? If that happened, then what caused that? I can't just fix the first thing I find because the problem won't be solved. That will keep coming back. Right? So right now, if you have any problems in your life that you're dealing with and it keeps happening, then chances are you're not asking enough questions. You're not looking deep enough, right, to the things below that, or behind that, or under that, or being covered by that symptom to get to the real root cause of whatever that issue is. And here, this is why I make the videos that I do, because we're trying to get to the root cause. Now, my videos are always ones that are videos that are saying, hey, let's look at this trust thing. Let's look at this planning thing. Let's look at goal setting. Let's look at, right? Because these are things that if you set those in place, the results start to change, right? But deeper than that, it changes who you are at your core. Because once you start down this path, all of these little things, discipline, right? That was another video we did. All of these videos are ones that make you be introspectively changed internally at your core. And if you can change your core, which you can by implementing these things that we've talked about, right? How you set boundaries, right? So if you put these things into practice and you start making different decisions, that changes the way the system is currently defaulted to work. That's what you have to do, right? The same way, during that call about my car, I could have went off. I could have snapped. I could have went ham. No. What I did was handle it professionally. I told him where my state was. I told him how I felt. I said, you know what? I feel like this isn't a good relationship, right? I feel like kind of that I'm not being heard when I came, right? Like it wasn't me going off, it wasn't me flipping, it wasn't me saying, yo, you gonna fix my car, blah, 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 like boom, 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 I'm about to come up there and whatever. No, no. Why? Because I want a good outcome. Even though my current experience is not one that I like, I still want a good outcome. And so for me to get a good outcome, that's going to require me to not go off on the person that's holding all the cards, which is the person with my car right now, who can make me have to pay even more by breaking random stuff and tell me that now that doesn't work either. Right? Yes, in the end, I could sue them, but that's after a bunch of rigmarole. I need you to fix my car, right? Because in the grand scheme, I don't have to really deal with y'all no more. Once you give me my car back, everything is working. I don't have to deal with you anymore. I don't have to bring another car there. All right. So this is the reason why I'm saying we need to look deeper when we say when we have a symptom, when we feel like something's not right, when we dealing with our spouse, when we're dealing with our kids, when we're dealing with our coworkers, when we're dealing with people in our everyday life, we have to look deeper. I think that it could be that he's so used to dealing with people that doesn't know anything about cars, right? Because a lot of people who drive nice cars don't know anything about a car. They pay for it and then they let other people work on it and they take whatever they say is a problem and they just pay for it, especially in the area that I live. So there's that. So this is the reason why I'm trying to put y'all on to digging deeper, finding out, well, what's the root cause? Because if you keep tracing it back, you should be able to find out what part is really the problem. And once I resolve that, now my whole experience changes, right? Things that you didn't even realize wasn't working right start to work right. Why? Because I've changed the core. I've changed the real thing that was causing the problem. Right? So now I want you guys to look at your life and really find out what are some things right now that kind of make you feel like it's unresolved or something that just keeps coming up again. Like it keeps coming back to that. What is that? And I want you to take a really good logical look at whatever's happening and then trace it back. Right? Why do I act this way? Why do I feel this way whenever this happens? What is it that's causing me to get to this point? Well, when did that first happen? Right? When's the first time I saw that in my life? Right? What happened during that first time I saw it? Right? And once you can trace that back and you can figure out what that is, then go solve it. Go solve it. Make a different decision going forward instead of the default way that you handle it at the first time. Because whatever you handled it, the way that you handled it the first time became your default in how you handle things going forward, which is now giving you an experience that keeps being something that you don't want. Go back to the first time, figure that out, right? Go back to the thing that you feel like is the problem. The symptoms will point you in a direction, right? We just said that. Follow the symptoms to the main problem. They're just telltale signs trying to give you the information that you're looking for. So, with that being said, yeah, I know I was supposed to be working right now. We were supposed to be on co-working with music and all of that. Maybe I will. Maybe I stay after, you know what I'm saying? After this video and stay on and do some co-working, get some music going. And so I think that's what I'll do. For all of you right now who are on YouTube, listen, hey, make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend, follow your man, Rich B's, the real Rich B's, on all of these. And I'll see you next time. So for you guys on YouTube, Rich B's out.